When I think about Christmas, when I think in particular about the message that God shares with the world at Christmas, I often find myself thinking about those wonderful words from Isaiah that we heard in our first reading this morning. The Lord will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child, and shall bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. Emmanuel, God is with us. In these words from Isaiah, these very ancient words, I think we discover a message of hope and encouragement, appropriate words for us with Christmas now just around the corner. Isaiah talks about a God who has the power to revive us and restore us and fill us with hope. It's an interesting reading, this one. Isaiah was, of course, first talking to the king, to King Ahaz, about 2,500 years ago. It was a message spoken to the king and to the people because they had lost their faith. They had lost sight of God. They needed to be reminded that God was still with them. And Isaiah points to a young pregnant woman and he says to the king, there is your proof. There is your proof. God is still raising up descendants of Abraham. There is your proof. Your God is with you. God is still breathing new life into the nations. As an interesting aside, this is the very passage of Scripture that St. Matthew misquoted. At the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, in our Gospel this morning, we hear Matthew talk about the Virgin Mary. Of course, it was a misrepresentation of Isaiah. Isaiah wasn't talking about a virgin, he was talking about a young pregnant woman. And we've been stuck with this dilemma ever since, for 2,000 years now. Was Mary a virgin or was she not? Was Matthew just really bad at Hebrew? Who knows? One of the bishops in the 2nd century, I think it was Gregory, tried to correct this error, but the idea of the virgin birth had become enshrined in the church and we've been stuck with it ever since. But these ancient words spoken 2,500 years ago still have meaning for us today. They are still appropriate words for us. After all these years, we still find relevance in this message of hope. Because these words, God is with us, this message is appropriate for anyone who feels lost this Christmas. Anyone who feels barren this Christmas or empty. These words talk about a God of discovery, hope, and new life. That's what Isaiah was saying to the king. Hope and new life. Again, Isaiah talks about a God who comes to us. A God who binds up the brokenhearted and proclaims liberty to the captive. Release to the prisoners. So Isaiah talks about a God of new life and freedom. On this last Sunday of Advent, with Christmas now just 2-3 days away, we have an opportunity to celebrate the love of this remarkable God. To give thanks for the love of this remarkable God. A God of healing, a God of hope, a God of new life. Beyond the tinsel, beyond the presents, beyond the ham and even the whiskey. We are reminded that our God is unconventional and surprising. I say unconventional and surprising because I'm referring to the way that God chooses to share himself with us at Christmas. God's love is offered to the world in the body of one small child. This amazing love, this amazing hope, and salvation for the world comes not through a great king seated on a throne with trumpets and heralds. It doesn't come gift-wrapped with ribbons. Instead, this love comes in the body of one small child lying on a bed of straw. Unconventional and surprising. Even Joseph didn't really understand the significance of his son's birth. And yet, according to our gospel, Jesus was born of Mary and Joseph and given the title Emmanuel. God is with us. So in that humble setting on that first Christmas, the words of Isaiah ring out. They ring out to the sick and the suffering. They ring out to the lost and the alone. Emmanuel, God is with us. These words breathe life into the lifeless. This is our Advent hope as we wait for Christmas. And this is a message that is relevant to people everywhere. It's relevant to us here in this church. It's relevant to the people living in the eastern states struggling with those bushfires. It's relevant to the people of Syria, ethnic minorities persecuted for their faith in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Jordan. Over the last few weeks, you may have noticed a small measure of dissatisfaction in my sermons, and I struggle with this every year, this sense of dissatisfaction. I struggle with the contrast that I see around me at this time of the year. The contrast between our secular Christmas celebrations and the quiet suffering of the sick, the sad, the poor, and the neglected. This incredible contrast. In all honesty, I think Christmas this year will be very difficult for some people. People who have lost family, people who have lost friends. I think Christmas might be difficult for those who have been troubled by illness. Others might find themselves struggling with painful memories or family concerns. And for these people, the words of Isaiah in our gospel offer comfort and hope. Emmanuel, God is with us. God, the one who comes to bind up the brokenhearted and provide liberty to the captive. This unconventional and surprising gift of grace that we find in our broken world. So finally, beyond the tinsel and the ham, even the whiskey, we look for the one who gives meaning to our celebrations, the God who comes to us. And I pray that we will all have the opportunity to discover this God of healing and hope, a God of surprises, and share this God with those that we meet. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us now pray for the world and for the church and thank God.